Hey everyone, Christian here, and I want to show you guys all of the different types of Areca catechu, also known as the betel nut palm. So the betel nut palm is a very common palm found throughout Southeast Asia. So we're talking Thailand, possibly Laos, definitely Vietnam, into the Philippines and Malaysia, that sort of area, in Indonesia. So this palm is very popular amongst the native people in those countries because of the fruit that is from these palms actually acts as a stimulant when chewed with a catalyst. So it has it's kind of an upper, sort of like maybe Ritalin, something to that effect. So it keeps you awake, it keeps you kind of going. It's not that strong of a drug, but it's not very good for your teeth. If you do some research on it, you can kind of Google it and see just how bad it is on on someone's, like, on your enamel. It's not good for you. I would not recommend even trying it. But that's kind of a traditional way to keep yourself awake. It's like kind of like coffee, I guess, maybe a little bit stronger. So anyway, on to the actual foliage of the plant. Here we have a regular sized catechu. It has normal size rachis and petiole. So you can see there actually is somewhat of a petiole there before the rachis starts and the leaflets start up there, and goes out and comes back down below the horizontal. And the leaflets are pretty lazy looking. They're not rigid, they're not upright, and the crown is not that tight. So if we go to the semi-dwarf, and we kind of keep, if we look at this here in the semi-dwarf versus this is another regular catechu next to it. There's actually two semi-dwarfs here, if you can see, and the regular one is in the middle. The trunk, and this is a way you can kind of tell how fast the palm will grow, is how far apart the growth rings are. So every time a boot falls off of this regular catechu, you can see that's about 3 to 4 inches there, probably closer to 4, where it's about 2.5 inches here, and this is actually a stepped trunk. So this actually comes back in. This is not flush to the trunk. So that actually bulges back out. It doesn't taper, so you're not losing the width of the crown of the trunk every time it grows. It just happens to have a stepped look, and you won't really get much of that. There's a little bit of that in this, but it's a lot more flush to the trunk there. So these crowns are going to be a lot tighter, and note that these palms have all been properly whipped by the shade cloth throughout Hurricane Irma. So the fact that the crown is still intact and doing well is just a plus. So these palms can die very easily from cold or from salt. They do grow in full sun, but they look best in a little bit of shade. So the crown here, you can see the rachis starts almost immediately from the crown, and the crown itself is a little bit tighter. And you can see the new leaf up top. I wish all the leaves were looking nice, but I want to show you guys these plants before they may get planted or put somewhere else. So, and there's two of them here. You can see the other one's kind of right next to it, and it's a little bit kind of behind the other plants. So we back up here a little bit. We can get to the true dwarfs, and these you really will find are quite a popular thing in Thailand. Especially, this is where a lot of these are cultivated, and they actually will come relatively true to seed. So if you get 100 seed from a super dwarf, or you just call them, yeah, pretty much a super dwarf versus a semi-dwarf versus the regular size, 100 seed of the super dwarf will probably put out about 10 to 15 good super dwarf plants. So they're about 10%, 15% true to seed, and the crown is extremely tight on these. There's no petiole whatsoever. It's all, like, if you see, it's all compacted into the this is probably the best looking one out of the three, but you can see how compact it is. All the crown is very tight, and actually you have to be careful not to let too much litter get inside there, because it can actually cause rotting in the crown. So these are actually, whoop, I kind of went upward there. So these are actually pretty old plants. Comparative, these are probably 20 years old, I would say. These are actually some of the oldest betel nuts I have ever seen, and I've actually seen these plants for about 7 years now. These were brought here from another part of Miami, and when they are in good shape, they look almost surreal, because they just look so symmetrical and kind of perfect. Now the trunks are a little bit gnarly just from age, and you know, that happens to pretty much all palms when they get older. They just kind of get a gnarly looking trunk. In fact, if you look at old bottle palms, you'll see just actually, you might think they're actually quite ugly. They just kind of get this weird, you know, bulgish shape, and you won't even, they're really not recognizable compared to when they're young and they have that big bulbous barrel trunk. So all these palms, although they're very nice, they're definitely going to be a minimum of like a good zone 10A, and that's in like a, you know, a little bit of canopy. They're not going to want to grow out in the full sun and wind there. You're going to want to protect them a little bit. So these do all right in the ground here in Miami. A lot of these super dwarfs are kept in pots almost their entire lives. Now these were being grown in the ground, but most people that I know have these palms in pots because they do actually do fine in pots, and they can, because they're dwarfish, they actually don't require too large of a pot to be kept around. So yeah, 10B plus for as far as warmth goes. They don't really like anything below 35. They'll tolerate it for short periods, but it isn't like 32 is like many other palms. They really start looking bad. Their leaflets will start to dry out and desiccate. So you know, they're gonna want like a half-day sun, like, so 50% shade, you know, it's probably best for them. Lots of water, lots of heat and humidity. These won't do well in areas that don't have a lot of heat and humidity. So if you live in a frost-free area, but it's like a Mediterranean frost-free area, these won't really do that well here. They'll kind of languish, they won't grow that well, they'll dry out real fast. So they like that tropical, humid rainforest type of climate. So the seed on these are going to look a lot like, the fruit looks almost identical to that of a queen, but it's a little bit more uniform and a little bit smoother. It's not as fibrous as a queen, and it's going to be like a bright orange yellow, and about the same size, or the size of a it's about an inch and a half wide long and about an inch wide, an oval. And the fruit, you know, the fruit is edible. I won't recommend chewing on it though. And they will, if you clean the seed and put them in germination bin, just, you know, regular, say your average germination mix, you will notice that they will grow very fast. They will germinate fast, and you'll have a 3-gallon plant within a year, and lots of heat and humidity. I wouldn't take it up over 100 degrees Fahrenheit or about 40 Celsius, but they do look quite nice. I mean, these old trunks look, like I said, gnarly, but if you look at the semi-dwarf and regular catechu trunks, you can see they're quite clean, they're smooth, and the crowns are quite nice. So I hope that you can look beyond the battered crowns and see just how beautiful a plant these are. And you might see, if you go to Florida, go to a palm sale, or, you know, something like that, go to a collector's garden, you may see one of these sitting in a pot, and they might have a little bit of trunk on them. They are not necessarily cheap, but they're beautiful. And definitely a lot of people consider this as like their favorite plant in their palm collection. So I figured I would show you guys this. I hope this was an informative review for you guys. If it was, give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, go ahead and subscribe, and you'll see much more palm content like this. And if you have any questions about the Areca catechu or any types of betel nuts, there are other varieties. I don't have them in front of me, but leave it down below, and I'd be happy to answer that, and I will see you guys next time.